At 2:03 a.m., Claire Mitchell opened her eyes to a silence that didn't feel empty. The room was still. Her bedroom glowed faintly with the yellow streetlight seeping through blinds. The hum of the old fridge in the next room was distant, like a heartbeat one floor below. But something else was there, an odd pressure just behind her left ear. Not a sound, not quite. More like a wet pulse, a whisper without words. She stayed still in the dark, not breathing, listening. The apartment was quiet, but the sensation wasn't going away. It had rhythm, almost gentle, like the push of someone's finger beneath her skin. It pulsed again, and this time she flinched. Claire reached up slowly, fingers sifting through messy strands of hair twisted into a loose nighttime bun. There, just behind the curve of her ear, a lump, small, hot, the size of a pea. Her fingertips recoiled as if the thing had flinched back. She sat up slowly, sheets rustling. Her apartment was old, creaky, Chicago midwinter cold. The wood floor chilled her soles as she padded across it, avoiding the loudest boards out of habit. In the bathroom, she clicked the vanity light. A buzzing hum filled the silence, fluorescent and unforgiving. She leaned into the mirror. What stared back was a tired version of herself, brown eyes shadowed with mascara smudges, cheek creased from the pillow, lips dry and cracked. Her skin looked dull under the yellow-white light. She pulled her hair aside, angling her head. The area behind her left ear was red and inflamed. The swelling looked taut, like a blister about to burst. And right in the center, a tiny black dot. She leaned in closer. It looked like a freckle, but she was sure it hadn't been there yesterday. She pressed it, just a little. The ache responded immediately, a sharp throb that bloomed out from the center like something angry had been woken. Claire sucked in a breath. "Okay," she muttered under her breath, forcing a shaky smile. "Calm down, it's a pimple. Or maybe an ingrown hair." She turned on the tap, soaked a washcloth in cold water, wrung it out. The cloth hissed as she pressed it to the lump, and for a moment, the pain dulled. It was nothing. These things happened. She was probably stressed, probably dehydrated, probably just run down. Still, the whisper hadn't gone. She left the light on in the bathroom as she climbed back into bed, the washcloth folded neatly in her hand like a shield. She lay on her side, the cold fabric pressed gently to the swelling, and counted her breaths in the silence. 100, 200. By 3 a.m., she drifted off again. She didn't dream. Or if she did, she couldn't remember. The alarm buzzed at 5:30, sharp and cruel. Claire groaned and slapped it off with a groggy hand. The pain was waiting, worse now, deeper, as if something had settled in overnight. She blinked into the semi-dark, her brain fogged with the start of a headache. She made coffee on autopilot, the electric kettle wheezing like an asthmatic robot. The overhead light in the kitchen flickered, then steadied. The radiator knocked in the wall like someone tapping from inside the pipes. Claire touched the spot again, wincing. It felt bigger, rounder, hotter. She looked down at the rising steam from her mug and tried to force herself to think rationally. She had a shift in an hour. She had bills, rent. She didn't have time to go spiraling over a zit behind her ear. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that the thing was aware of her. The cafe was warm and noisy by 7, already full of regulars clinging to paper cups and early conversations. Claire moved through her tasks by muscle memory, pulling espresso, steaming milk, dodging elbows and questions. Sharon, her manager, called out orders while trying to fix the label printer for the 3rd time that week. Claire smiled when she had to. She joked when someone handed her a $5 for a $4.95 drink. But every time she turned her head to the left, the headset mic grazed the sore spot, and it flared in response. By 9 a.m., her ponytail was yanking too hard on the area, so she ducked into the back room and redid it higher, tighter, neater. Sharon popped her head in. "You okay?" Claire faked a grin. "Just a zit behind my ear. Driving me crazy. Warm compress tonight. And don't pick." "I would never," Claire said solemnly, then rolled her eyes when Sharon disappeared at lunch. She texted her sister. "Claire, can stress cause lymph nodes to swell?" Erin, "Yes. Also infections. Also life in general. You okay?" Claire, annoying lump. "Nothing major." Erin, "Keep an eye. Don't poke." Claire didn't answer. She didn't want to admit she'd already poked it. The rest of the day passed in a blur of voices and motion, but by afternoon, the ache changed. It wasn't just sharper, it was stranger. The heat spread from behind her ear along the bone. A kind of pressure began to creep upward toward her scalp. At one point, while steaming milk, a jolt of pain zapped through her temples so hard she nearly dropped the pitcher. Sharon sent her on break. No arguments. In the staff bathroom, Claire angled her phone flashlight toward the mirror and examined the area again. It had grown. The size of a marble now, shiny under the light. The dot at the center had darkened, like a clogged pore, and this time, she could swear it moved. She cleaned it with an alcohol pad from the first aid kit, then dabbed on antibiotic cream like Erin always kept in her purse. She taped a Band-Aid over the area and went back to work, but she couldn't stop thinking about it, not even for a second. Claire didn't sleep well that night. The whisper returned, not as a sound, but as a sense of presence. Each time she began to drift, a soft pressure pulsed behind her ear like someone lightly pressing from the inside. The air felt different around her bed, thicker, like the room was listening too. By morning, her eyes burned, and her pillowcase was faintly damp on one side. She stumbled to the bathroom, flipped on the light, and peeled the Band-Aid off with shaky fingers. The swelling had grown. No question now, it wasn't her imagination. It had gone from a marble to a small walnut, the skin around it taut and glossy. The dark pinpoint at the center had stretched into something else. Not a dot anymore, more like a slit, a thin, vertical crease just barely open, just enough to make her gag. Claire staggered back from the mirror, hand pressed to her mouth. The room spun. For a second she wanted to scream. Instead, she sat on the edge of the tub, breathing in through her nose, out through her mouth. Don't be dramatic. You're overtired. You didn't sleep. Things always look worse in fluorescent lighting. But the truth pressed against her skull. Something was wrong. She got dressed slowly, choosing a loose beanie instead of her usual ponytail. The fabric tugged against the sore spot but didn't reveal it. She applied concealer under her eyes, though she knew it wouldn't hide the exhaustion. The cafe didn't care about dark circles, but the ritual helped her pretend she was fine. The walk to work was gray and biting. Wind sliced through her coat, cutting around corners like a knife. Chicago in February didn't care if you were unraveling. Inside the cafe, everything was noise and heat and the smell of espresso. The sounds were almost comforting. Steam wands hissing, cups clinking, names being called out over the crowd. For the first hour, Claire managed to move through it. She made coffee. She smiled. She nodded along to conversations without hearing a word. But every time she leaned, every time she turned her head, the sore spot throbbed. Not like an ache, not even like a bruise. It was rhythmic, intentional. It pulsed when she thought about it. It pulsed when she didn't. By 9:45, she couldn't take it anymore. She ducked into the back room, dropped her apron on a hook, and pulled off her beanie. She faced the mirror over the hand-washing sink. The lump bulged outward under the skin, red, angry, alive. The slit was definitely wider. It glistened faintly under the overhead light. There was a shimmer in the crease, wet, reflective, as if something beneath the skin had blinked. Claire let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a whimper. Her hand trembled as she touched it again, gently. The skin was burning hot. The pressure beneath didn't retreat. It seemed to lean into her touch. And then, it twitched, not just a pulse, not just blood flow. This was movement. Claire froze. For a moment she forgot how to breathe. Her fingertips hovered a hair's width from the skin. She stared at the slit until her eyes burned, but nothing else happened. No more twitch, no more shimmer. She backed away slowly, knuckles white around the edge of the sink. This is insane. It's infected. It's just infected. She washed her hands twice, scrubbing hard, then tied her hair up again, high and tight, to take pressure off the spot. She returned to the bar, moving slower, eyes glazed. Sharon noticed. Need a break? Claire shook her head too quickly. I'm okay. She wasn't. By lunch, she felt like she was floating an inch above her own body. The pressure behind her ear had begun to creep upward. She kept imagining it slithering just beneath the skin, snaking its way toward her jawline, her temple, deeper. In the storage closet, she pulled out her phone and texted Erin again. Claire, it's worse. Erin, define worse. Claire, swelling, weird shape, might be infected. Erin, take a photo. I'll come by tonight. Claire didn't reply. She couldn't bring herself to take a photo. She wasn't sure she could look at it again. She finished her shift in a haze. Customers blurred together. The milk steamer roared like a jet engine. Every vibration from the machine seemed to echo in her skull. By the time she got home, her entire left side ached. She dropped her bag inside the door, kicked off her shoes, and went straight to the mirror. No hesitation this time. The lump was grotesque now, deep red, glossy with tension. The slit had widened further, no longer vertical. It curved slightly now, almost like a mouth. The shimmer at the center was back, shifting when she leaned close. Claire leaned in. Breath fogged the glass. The slit moved, a pulse, slow, deliberate, like it was inhaling. Claire stumbled back, knocking over the trash can. She stared, heart racing. There was nothing human about it, not anymore. Her stomach heaved, but she kept it down. She grabbed the bottle of peroxide from under the sink and doused a cotton pad, pressing it against the wound. It stung like fire. She didn't care. She pressed harder. The pulse seemed to twitch in protest. She covered it with gauze, taped it tight. Then she did something she hadn't done since college. She prayed. No fancy words, no formal prayer, just a whisper. Please let this be nothing. Please let it go away. Outside, a siren wailed in the distance. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked. Claire sat on the edge of her tub, hands clasped tight, head bent like she could will the thing out of her body. She stayed like that for 10 minutes before forcing herself to move. She opened the freezer, grabbed the nearest ice pack, and wrapped it in a kitchen towel. She pressed it to her head as she curled onto the couch, too exhausted to undress, too scared to lie flat. Aaron texted again around 7:30. Aaron, still planning to come over. Want me to bring anything? Claire stared at the screen for a long time before answering. Claire, no, just hurry. Claire woke with a jolt, her heart already pounding before her mind had time to catch up. She knew the time before even looking. The digital clock on her nightstand blinked 2:03 a.m., its red numbers glowing like a wound in the dark. The apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that pressed against the walls, not peaceful, claustrophobic. She lay motionless, cold air biting at the exposed skin of her neck. Something was wrong. She reached up slowly. The gauze was damp. Claire's hand hesitated just above it. Her breath shallowed, as if her lungs no longer trusted the air. She peeled the tape off slowly, the soft rip of adhesive loud in the silence. The pad came away sticky with clear, yellowish fluid. She forced herself up and stumbled into the bathroom, flicking on the harsh overhead light. Her reflection looked ghostly, sweat slicked and pale. Her eyes were wild, too wide, pupils too large. She pulled her hair aside, heart hammering in her chest. The skin behind her ear was dark now, bruised and shiny. The slit had widened, not gaping, but enough to show something. Claire leaned closer, so close that her nose nearly touched the glass, breath fogging the mirror in shallow bursts. She squinted at the crease. And then it moved. Not a twitch, something emerged. A thin, pale filament, barely thicker than a strand of hair, rose slowly from the slit. It trembled in the air, waving like it was tasting her breath. The tip curled, then darted slightly left. Claire recoiled so fast her shoulders slammed into the doorframe. The mirror rattled behind her. She was shaking, arms, hands, legs, every nerve misfiring. No, she whispered. No, 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 no. Her fingers fumbled for her phone on the bathroom counter. She scrolled blindly through contacts and jabbed at Aaron's name. It rang twice. Claire? Aaron's voice was groggy, thick with sleep. What's wrong? There's something in me, Claire whispered. A beat of silence. Then what? It moved. It came out. I saw it. Behind my ear. Aaron didn't ask more. Her voice shifted instantly. Clear, calm, professional. Don't touch it. Don't poke it. Cover it again if you can. I'm coming. It's the middle of the night. I'm on my way. The call ended. Claire stared at her phone screen, then at herself in the mirror. Her lips were bloodless. Her skin glistened with sweat. She grabbed a fresh pad of gauze, tore it open with her teeth, and pressed it gently over the slit. This time she didn't tape it. She just held it there, like pressure could keep it in. She sat on the couch, lights off, blanket around her shoulders, ice pack forgotten on the floor. She didn't move. She didn't blink. Her mind screamed, but her mouth stayed shut. She tried to pray again. No words came, just the whisper of her breath and the thud of her pulse. 15 minutes later, keys jangled in the lock. Erin pushed open the door, wearing a hoodie over her pajamas, hair pulled into a quick, messy braid. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask permission. Let me see. Claire sat stiffly on the couch, one hand still pressing the gauze to her head. Erin dropped her bag and crouched beside her, flipping on her phone's flashlight. Her hands were steady, voice low. It's okay. Just breathe. I've got you. Claire pulled her hair aside. Erin gently peeled back the gauze. She didn't gasp, didn't flinch, but Claire saw the way her jaw tightened. Erin leaned in closer, adjusting the light. The slit was still slightly open. A thin smear of fluid glistened at the edges. The bruise had darkened, reaching toward Claire's temple in a sickly halo. Jesus, Erin whispered. It looks like a breathing hole. A what? Erin looked up. Let's not name it. Not yet. We're going to the hospital. Claire hesitated, dread curling in her gut. I can't afford. Erin's tone softened. I'm not asking. We're not waiting on bills. Get your shoes. Claire stood, legs stiff and numb. As she reached for her sneakers, she felt a warmth slide down the side of her neck. She touched it with the edge of her finger, wet. The gauze soaked again. She pressed it back hard and felt for just a second a push from beneath the skin. Not a twitch, not a pulse, a push. It was trying to get out. She made a sound like a sob caught in her throat, but didn't let it surface. The ride to the hospital was a blur. Cold air, flashing lights, the hum of tires on cracked pavement. Erin didn't say much, just kept her hand lightly on Claire's knee, grounding her. At the ER entrance, fluorescent lights greeted them like interrogators. The smell of antiseptic and stale coffee curled in the back of Claire's throat. The waiting room TV muttered about weather patterns and morning traffic. The triage nurse didn't blink when Claire said infection behind my ear. Erin jumped in, giving more medical-sounding details: rapid swelling, fluid discharge, possible parasitic infection. The nurse raised her eyebrows but didn't comment. Claire was led through a buzzing door into a curtained room. A young doctor, mid-30s, clean-shaven, polite, introduced himself as Dr. Keller. Claire sat on the exam table. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Let's have a look, Keller said, snapping on gloves. Claire lifted her hair again. Erin stood beside her, silent, eyes locked on the sight. Doctor. Keller peeled back the gauze. He paused. Claire watched his face, his brows furrowed. His expression flickered, just for a second, before smoothing out again. Okay, he said too brightly. Might be a sebaceous cyst. Or a severe folliculitis. We'll numb it, open it up and drain it. Should feel better after. But it moved, Claire whispered. Keller's smile stayed frozen. Sometimes fluid builds under pressure. Feels like movement. Claire nodded automatically, but her gut screamed otherwise. She knew what she saw. Erin leaned close and murmured, "We'll make them believe you. Just let them see." Claire said nothing. She just closed her eyes, letting the moment settle in her bones. Whatever this was, it wasn't going away quietly. The exam room felt colder now. The paper on the table crackled under Claire as she shifted, hugging her arms around her stomach. Erin stood next to her like a sentry, silent but alert. "Doctor." Keller prepped his tray, humming under his breath, a tune too cheerful for what was about to happen. Claire's mind wasn't really in the room. It hovered somewhere above her, detached, like watching herself on a screen. Her head buzzed, not from fear exactly, but something deeper, a kind of dread that settled in the bones. Keller turned, snapping off the cap of a small syringe. "I'm going to inject a local anesthetic around the site. You'll feel a sting and some pressure, but it won't take long." Claire nodded, jaw clenched. She didn't trust herself to speak. The sting burned, spreading fast. Her scalp tingled, then dulled. The pressure remained, deep and heavy, but the sharpness began to fade. "Can you feel this?" Keller pressed gently around the swelling. "No. Just pressure. Good. That means it's working." Erin moved closer, watching the doctor's every move. Keller picked up the scalpel. Claire closed her eyes. She heard the sound before she felt it, a soft, wet snick as the blade cut into her skin. No pain, just the sensation of something being opened, exposed. "There we go," Keller murmured. "Just a small incision. Let's see what we're dealing with." He pressed lightly on the tissue. A thin stream of clear, yellow-tinged fluid oozed out. It dribbled down toward the gauze below. "Fluid buildup," he said casually. "Could be a cyst, as I suspected. Nothing alarming." But then he stopped. Claire opened her eyes. Keller's brow furrowed, eyes locked on the wound. Something twitched. Inside the slit, just beneath the surface, something moved. Keller reached for the suction tube. "Just clearing it out," he said, but his voice was tighter now. Erin took a step closer, phone gripped tightly in her hand. Then it happened. A pale shape emerged from the opening. Thin, segmented, slightly curved like a crescent, it wriggled forward slowly, resisting the pull of air, clinging to the tissue as if it were alive, which it was. Keller froze, suction tube hovering midair. The thing slithered halfway out before it stopped, twitching. Aaron gasped. Keller dropped the suction and reached for a pair of forceps. He clamped onto the pale body and tugged gently. It resisted. For one breathless second, it held firm. Then, with a wet pop, it tore free. 4 centimeters long, white-gray, with visible rings along its body. It writhed weakly in the air as Keller held it up. He dropped it into a metal basin with a metallic clink, where it curled in on itself, then stretched out again, blindly seeking. Claire stared at it. Her body didn't react at first, then everything hit her at once. Lightheadedness, nausea, a ringing in her ears. She slumped sideways, vision narrowing to a tunnel. Claire. Aaron caught her before she fell. Get another nurse, Keller barked over his shoulder, voice tense now. We've got movement. A nurse appeared quickly, eyes widening when she saw the thing in the tray. What is that? Larva, Keller said. Botfly maybe, I don't know yet. He turned back to the incision. The wound still oozed fluid. He dabbed with gauze, then paused. Another ripple beneath the skin. Keller didn't speak this time. He grabbed the forceps again and probed carefully, widening the opening just slightly. The second one came faster, smaller, about 2 centimeters, twitching violently as it broke the surface. Keller pulled it free and dropped it into the tray beside its sibling. Aaron leaned over Claire, whispering, You're okay, it's out. Claire's lips moved, but no sound came. Her eyes were open, unfocused. A single tear tracked down her temple. Keller pressed a fresh gauze pad to the wound and looked up at the nurse. I want this sent to pathology immediately. We'll flush the cavity and prep for imaging. She's not going home tonight. The nurse nodded, grabbing the sealed dish and disappearing. Keller exhaled through his nose and began to irrigate the wound with saline. Clear fluid flushed out. Claire flinched even through the numbness. Then, another twitch. A third one. It slid free almost on its own. Keller didn't have to pull this time. It came wriggling toward the light like it wanted out. Smaller than the first, but still alive. He dropped it into a specimen jar, sealed the lid tightly. Aaron whispered, How many are there? Keller shook his head. I don't know. His voice was no longer calm. Claire stirred weakly. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Aaron held her hand, watching Keller's every move. I'm closing the incision for now, he said. We need to monitor her. Start antibiotics and call an ENT. I want a second opinion. He glanced at Aaron. She mentioned movement before. She wasn't imagining it. Aaron didn't say I told you so. She just nodded. Keller added, We'll get her admitted upstairs. They'll keep her overnight for observation, imaging in the morning. And if there are more? Aaron asked. We'll know soon. Claire finally spoke, her voice dry and hoarse. They're not done. Keller looked at her. I felt it, she whispered. Before you cut it. It knew. No one responded. The curtain rustled as another nurse entered with paperwork. Keller began giving orders, filling out admission forms, speaking medical terms that blurred together. But Claire wasn't listening anymore. Her eyes drifted toward the tray where the larvae had been. They were gone now, sealed, sent away for testing. But something inside her said they weren't alone, not yet. Claire hadn't spoken a word since they wheeled her into the upstairs room. The hospital bed felt too small, the walls too close. Everything smelled like bleach and plastic. The fluorescent lights overhead hummed faintly, never quite turning off, even in the dimmed night setting. Aaron sat in the vinyl chair next to her, one leg pulled up under her, hoodie zipped tight. She scrolled through her phone, not really reading, occasionally glancing at her sister's face. Claire stared at the ceiling, eyes open, unblinking. Downstairs, a lab tech was already analyzing the first 3 larvae. At 3:42 a.m., a soft knock on the door broke the silence. A tall man in navy scrubs stepped in, glasses perched low on his nose, a folder in one hand. His ID badge read, Dr. Leonard Brooks, NT Specialist. Ms. Mitchell, his voice was deep, calm, steady. Claire blinked slowly. Aaron stood up. I'm Dr. Brooks, I'm an otolaryngologist. They've called me in for your case. He gave a small, almost apologetic smile. I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. Claire tried to sit up but winced. Aaron adjusted the bed controls. We've reviewed what was removed during the procedure downstairs, Brooks continued, setting the folder on the rolling table. The specimens are being sent to pathology, but initial visuals suggest larval parasites, possibly dipteran, potentially botfly, though it's not typical. Not typical how? Aaron asked. Brooks glanced at her. They're larger than we usually see, more mobile. And this far north, it's rare to see cases at all, unless the patient's traveled recently. Claire rasped. I haven't been anywhere. Out of the country? I haven't been out of Illinois. Brooks didn't respond immediately. He opened the folder and slid an image across the table. It was a black and white scan, cross-section of a skull, eerie and hollow. This is your CT from about 20 minutes ago, he said. See here, behind the left auricular region, these small cavities? Aaron leaned forward. There are 8 distinct pockets, each roughly 5 to 10 millimeters in diameter. Brooks explained. The ones closer to the surface match the location where the larvae were removed. And the others? Aaron asked. They go deeper. One in particular is concerning. He pointed to a darker, irregular shape near the base of Claire's skull. This one is right up against the mastoid bone, close to the sinus. It's deeper than the rest, harder to access. Claire looked at the image. It didn't look like her. It looked like something from a biology textbook. Something diseased. So what does that mean? She asked, voice thin. It means we can't confirm that everything's been removed, Brooks said gently. The 3 that came out might not be the only ones. The CT suggests more. Possibly alive, possibly not. Aaron crossed her arms. What about an MRI? That's scheduled for the morning. We need to check for motion, activity, and proximity to sensitive structures. Claire shut her eyes. The pressure behind her ear hadn't gone away. It had changed. Shifted, yes, but it was still there, still breathing with her, still matching her heartbeat. Can't you just cut the rest out? She whispered. Brooks sighed. We want to avoid unnecessary damage. Surgery near the mastoid can affect hearing, balance, even facial nerve function. If it's dead tissue, we may not need to go in. But if we see signs of movement... I've felt movement. Brooks looked at her. It moves, she said. Not randomly. It waits. It responds. He didn't write anything down. He didn't argue either. Aaron moved closer to the bed, putting her hand over Claire's. Do you think this is some mutation? Aaron asked. Is that why it's not matching usual botfly behavior? We don't know yet, Brooks admitted. I've already contacted an infectious disease specialist, and I'll be speaking with CDC consultants in the morning. Quietly, for now. That last word made Claire look at him sharply. Quietly. Brooks hesitated. This isn't standard, and there may be more to this than just your case. What does that mean? But he didn't elaborate. Instead, he turned to leave. Try to rest. Imaging in 6 hours. No food or water after 4. When the door closed, Aaron sat down again slowly. Claire stared at the ceiling. After a long moment, she said, They don't know what it is. Aaron nodded. They will. What if they don't? Aaron didn't answer. At 5:12 a.m., a nurse came in to check vitals. Claire barely responded. The nurse was kind, efficient, kept her voice low. When she changed the dressing, Aaron saw it again. The faint, wet gleam at the edge of the wound. Not infected, not inflamed. Just watching. Claire whispered something Aaron didn't catch. What? She asked. Claire turned her head slightly, eyes glazed. It's not done, she said. I can still feel one. It's waiting. Aaron reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her sister's forehead. You're going to be okay, she lied. Claire didn't call her on it. Aaron hadn't slept. Not really. The chair beside Claire's hospital bed was too narrow, the overhead lights too dim to ignore. But it wasn't the discomfort that kept her awake. It was the way Claire had said, it's waiting. Not I think or maybe. She had said it like a fact, like she wasn't guessing. Aaron scrolled through forms on her phone in the dark, the screen dimmed low. Parasitic infections, rare botfly cases, myiasis in non-endemic regions. Most of it was medical jargon, clinical and detached. None of it matched what she had seen with her own eyes. 3 larvae removed, 8 cavities on the scan, a slit that glistened like it was breathing. At 6 a.m., the nurse came in for pre-imaging prep. Claire barely moved as the IV was adjusted. Her skin looked pale, almost translucent under the hospital lighting. She slept? The nurse asked. Aaron nodded, unsure if it was true. At 7:30 a.m., they wheeled Claire downstairs for the MRI. Aaron followed, coffee cup clutched in one hand, hair pulled into a tight bun. She'd always been good under pressure. In school, in crisis, she could compartmentalize, triage emotions. But this was different. Back in the waiting room, she stared blankly at the muted TV screen showing the morning news. A cheerful anchor talked about traffic delays while Claire lay motionless in a tube, being scanned for the things that lived inside her. An hour later, they returned her to the room. She was groggy but alert. Aaron helped her settle, pulled the blanket up over her shoulders. Claire's voice was low. They asked if I'd traveled out of the country again. And you said, same thing I've said every time. No. Aaron hesitated, then asked, do you remember anything strange from before it started? Claire didn't answer right away. Her eyes drifted toward the window where the city moved on, unaware. There was a shipment at the cafe, she said slowly. A couple of weeks ago, new beans, from somewhere in South America. I opened the crate. There was dust. Something smelled weird. Did it get on you? Claire shrugged. Probably. I wiped down the sacks. Could have touched my face, my ear. Aaron nodded and made a note in her phone. Claire turned her head slightly. Why? I'm trying to understand where this started, Aaron said. Because if it started with you, there could be others. Claire blinked slowly. You think it's contagious? I think, Aaron said carefully, that it's not acting like any parasite we've seen, and it's not native to Chicago in the middle of winter. Claire didn't respond. That afternoon, Aaron bought a small motion-activated camera from the Walgreens near the hospital. Nothing fancy, just enough to see what happened when no one was watching. That night, she set it up on the side table, facing Claire's bed. The lens blinked once as it powered on. Aaron angled it to catch Claire's face and the left side of her head, where the gauze was still taped over the wound. Claire watched silently as Aaron adjusted the angle. Is this really necessary? She asked. I just want to make sure, Aaron said. Claire nodded once, then rolled onto her good side, facing away from the camera. At 2:03 a.m., the camera clicked on. Claire didn't jerk awake this time. She sat up slowly, smoothly. Her eyes were open, but her gaze was distant, unfocused. Her movements were too deliberate, too fluid. She swung her legs over the side of the bed. Aaron, asleep in the chair, didn't stir. Claire stood. She walked to the mirror above the sink, the one mounted in every hospital room like a functional afterthought. She leaned close. Her hands rose to her head. She peeled back the gauze in slow, careful motions. The slit behind her ear had widened again. In the harsh reflection, it looked unnatural, flesh pulled apart by something underneath. Claire tilted her head, and then she spoke. The camera's audio was faint, distorted, but the words came through, almost ready. She reached toward the glass, not touching it, hovering. Then she smiled. Not a warm smile, not a tired, pain-weary smile. A cold, knowing smile. She stared at her own reflection for nearly a minute, unmoving. Then she turned, walked back to the bed, lay down, and pulled the blanket up over her chest. By 2:06, the camera powered off. Aaron didn't see the footage until morning. Claire was in the bathroom, brushing her teeth, moving stiffly. The camera had synced to her phone. She watched the playback alone in the hallway. When it ended, she didn't move. She played it again, and again. She stepped into the bathroom and looked at her sister, who now stood brushing her hair with trembling fingers. You okay? Aaron asked casually. Claire nodded. Headache, bad dreams. Yeah? Claire's eyes met hers in the mirror. I feel better today. Aaron smiled, tight-lipped, but her hands were already texting the video file to a contact she hadn't spoken to in almost a year. The MRI results came back by noon. Dr. Brooks entered the room with a folder in one hand and a tension in his jaw that hadn't been there the day before. Claire was sitting up in bed, wrapped in a pale blue blanket, sipping weak hospital coffee. Aaron stood when she saw his face. What did it show? She asked. Brooks glanced at Claire, then unfolded the scan films across the portable lightboard. He pointed. This, he said, tapping a dense shadow near the base of the skull, is the cavity we've been watching. Claire leaned forward slightly, careful not to jostle her forth. It's grown, Brooks said. Neither of them spoke. There's movement, slow but definite, enough that we know it's not just fluid, it's not residual tissue, and it's burrowing. Claire set her cup down, her hands trembled. We need to go in again, Brooks continued. Today. Aaron took a breath. How deep? Closer to the mastoid bone than I'd like, near nerve branches. But we don't have a choice. If this continues to move, he didn't finish the sentence. Claire swallowed. Am I going to lose hearing? Brooks hesitated. There's a risk. But I'll do everything I can to minimize damage. Claire nodded once. I want it out. They prepped her within the hour. This time, the surgical suite was colder. More staff, 2 nurses, an assistant surgeon. Erin waited outside, arms crossed tightly over her chest, pacing like her shoes were made of coiled wire. Inside, Claire lay still beneath the wide surgical drape. Only her left ear and the surrounding skin remained exposed under the sterile blue fabric. Her head was secured in a molded brace to keep her from moving. She was awake, barely, under conscious sedation, drifting in and out, dimly aware of the light above her and the voices murmuring around her. Brooks worked quickly. The first incision reopened the original wound. Blood welled and was quickly wiped away. The underlying tissue looked different now. Inflamed, distorted, not natural. He pressed deeper, clearing out scar tissue, making room to explore. And then, he saw it, a mass, tucked against the bone, wrapped in fibrous strands like muscle, but not muscle. It pulsed faintly, moved, even as the tools approached. Brooks didn't flinch. Forceps, he said. The nurse handed it over. He reached in. The mass shifted. It didn't want to come out. Brooks gripped it gently and pulled. It resisted, anchored with microscopic hooks, tiny barbs that dug into soft flesh. The suction hissed beside him as the assistant cleared the bleeding. The larva, if that's what it was, stretched grotesquely as it began to emerge. Longer than the others. Thicker, almost 5 inches by the time it finally tore free. It writhed in the air, pale and glistening, curling around itself with sluggish motion. The room held its breath. Into the dish, Brooks said. The nurse dropped it into a sealed container with a metallic clatter. She stepped back, visibly pale beneath her mask. Still moving, she murmured. Brooks didn't answer. He flushed the cavity with saline, watching for more. Another twitch, smaller this time. He inserted the forceps again, deeper. A second one, slimmer, weaker, slid free without resistance. He placed it beside the first. That made 5. 3 from the first procedure, 2 more now. But the scan had shown 8. He probed again. Nothing. No movement, no resistance. Only raw, torn tissue and the slow trickle of blood. Finally, after 5 full minutes of searching, Brooks leaned back. His gloves were slick, his brow damp. We've cleared what we can, he said quietly. The team began closing. Layer by layer they sutured skin over what had once been a nest. Gauze was applied. Pressure bandaging followed. The largest larva lay twitching in the sealed container, curled like a question mark, and Claire woke in recovery, disoriented and nauseated. Erin was there instantly, leaning over her, brushing damp hair from her forehead. It's done, she said softly. They went deep, they found more. Claire blinked slowly. Her voice was a rasp. All of them? Erin hesitated. They think so. Claire's eyes searched her face. Think? There were 5 total. The scan showed 8 cavities. 2 may have been empty. Or dead. Or healed over. Claire closed her eyes. Her chest rose and fell, slow and shallow. I felt it, she whispered. The one they pulled. I felt it screaming. Erin didn't respond. She didn't know what to say. That night, Claire barely moved. Her face was pale, the skin around her eyes bruised from exhaustion and medication. Erin sat by the bed again, but this time, she didn't look at her phone. She just watched her sister breathe. In the sealed pathology room 1 floor down, the larva still twitched occasionally, even in the cold. A lab tech examining the specimen logged its length, structure, and segmented design. He made notes. Not typical, he muttered. He looked up the file. Claire Mitchell. No travel history, no prior infections, no wilderness exposure. He opened a separate window, typed in a code. 2 other cases popped up. 1 in Houston, 1 in Portland. Both flagged, both closed, both marked do not release. He stared at the screen, then slowly reached for the phone. Erin first noticed it in the hallway. She'd gone to refill Claire's water. Just a moment, just down the corridor, and as she passed the nurse's station, she heard voices. Low, urgent, not meant for her. She sent it, not just sent, she posted it. You're kidding. Reddit, a private forum. The damn video. Jesus, what did admin say? She's suspended, indefinitely. Erin slowed her steps, her fingers tightening around the plastic cup. She didn't turn her head, just listened. They've already contacted internal security. IT's wiping the server copy. CDC wants full silence. The CDC? They're involved? They've been watching since the first Houston case. This makes 3. 3 confirmed? That's just what they're saying out loud. A sharp rustle of paper. Silence. Then more quietly, a third voice. Did you see it? The larva? In the dish? No answer. Then after a pause, thing looked like it smiled. Erin's stomach turned. She backed away, slowly, forcing her face into something neutral when she rounded the corner back to Claire's room. Inside, Claire was propped up in bed, staring at the muted television, her face blank. The nurse will be back in a minute, Erin said, placing the water on the tray. Claire didn't respond. Her skin was sallow today, her lips pale. There were new shadows under her eyes, purple and sunken, like bruises that hadn't fully formed. You slept? Erin asked. Claire shook her head faintly. Not really. Erin sat. You want me to ask for something stronger? No, Claire said quickly. No more meds. I need to be awake. I need to know if it's still there. Erin stared at her. You don't think they got it all? Claire's voice was a whisper. It's quiet now, but I feel space, like something used to live in me, and part of it still does. Erin said nothing. She reached for the water again but didn't offer it. Claire finally turned to her. I don't want to be a story on the news, she said. Promise me. Erin blinked. What? If this gets worse, if they come back, if I start changing, don't turn me into some Reddit thread or TikTok mystery. I'm not. Claire, I would never. Promise me. Erin hesitated. Okay, I promise. Claire nodded and looked away. On. That afternoon, Erin checked the hospital Wi-Fi. The camera feed she'd saved from the night before was gone. The cloud storage, wiped. Her login didn't work anymore. When she asked the front desk, the clerk smiled with perfect politeness and said there must have been a glitch. Erin didn't believe her. She called a friend who worked freelance cybersecurity. Anything posted under your account is gone, he confirmed. Like really gone. Deep clean. Government level clean? A pause. Let's just say this isn't your average data wipe. Erin hung up and stared at the screen. Outside, the sun was setting. The light cast long shadows across the floor, stripes across Claire's hospital bed. She turned her head slowly toward her sister. What's wrong? She asked. Erin shook her head. They're hiding it. Claire nodded once. I know. That night, Claire didn't try to sleep. She just lay in bed, blinking slowly, her fingers twitching at the edges of the bandage behind her ear. The new incision ran deeper. It ached in a way that painkillers couldn't reach. At 2:03 a.m. she whispered aloud, still here, not loud, not fearful, just acknowledgement. Something deep inside stirred at her words, but it didn't move, not yet. Erin couldn't stop thinking about the Houston and Portland cases. 2 names buried in the hospital's private archive. 2 patients marked as resolved and then sealed off. No further records, no public reports, no media coverage. She didn't believe in coincidences anymore. That night, while Claire drifted in and out of a restless sleep, Erin sat in the hospital cafeteria with her laptop open and her phone hotspotted to a private VPN. She traced the Portland case first. The name had been redacted, but she remembered the hospital code. From there, it didn't take long to find a Reddit comment thread from 8 months earlier. A user named Beatrix and Salt had posted vague, unsettling updates about her sister. Sudden swelling behind the ear, hallucinations, strange dreams. Her posts ended abruptly, but one of her last comments linked to a private YouTube video. My sister talking in her sleep again. Is this even normal? Erin clicked it. The video opened with grainy footage of a pale woman sitting upright in bed, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. Her eyes were open but unfocused. In the background, a digital clock read 2:03 a.m. The woman stared at the camera, then whispered, almost ready. Erin's stomach turned. That was the exact phrase Claire had spoken in the mirror. She replayed it, heart pounding, same tone, same time, same expression. Erin hit pause. In the video, the woman's left ear was bandaged. The skin below the gauze was discolored, pulsing faintly. With trembling fingers, Erin copied the video link and saved it offline. She opened a new tab and searched Portland Public Records. Eventually, she found a name, Lana Gibbs, age 38. Admitted to Providence Hospital, released 6 days later. No official diagnosis listed, but a local news site mentioned a sudden disappearance from that same neighborhood, same time frame. Lana had left home without warning, never returned. Police had closed the case as voluntary withdrawal. Erin didn't believe that either. She dug deeper. backtracked through old Facebook posts, found an account that looked dormant but still had Messenger open. She typed, "Hi, my name is Erin. I think my sister went through something similar to yours. If you're still out there, please, can we talk?" She didn't expect an answer, but 20 minutes later, a reply came, "She's not my sister anymore." Erin stared at the message. "Then you need to leave her behind. Before she leaves you." Erin typed quickly. "Did your sister say things in her sleep? Did she act like she was being controlled?" The typing dots blinked. Then came a reply. At first it was just the whispering. Then came the mirror. Then the others. "I recorded her talking to someone, but there was no one else in the room. She stopped blinking, started mimicking things. The night before she disappeared, she looked at me and said, 'You'll feel it too.'" Erin's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Did she mention anything about something being almost ready?" The reply came instantly. "Yes, always at 2:03 a.m. Erin's throat tightened. "What is it? What's almost ready?" There was a long pause. Then, "They're not parasites. Not like we think. They're pieces of something bigger, not just inside them, connected through them." Erin stared at the words. Her pulse pounded in her ears. What are they doing? Building. The screen stayed quiet after that. No more replies. Back upstairs, Claire was awake again, her eyes glassy in the dark. She looked at Erin as she entered. "Where were you?" Her voice was scratchy, raw. "I had to check something," Erin said carefully. She set the laptop down and sat by the bed. Claire studied her. "You found someone, didn't you?" Erin hesitated. She said it wasn't her sister anymore. Claire nodded like she already knew. "I've been dreaming," she whispered. "But it's not just dreaming, it's remembering things I've never seen." "Like what?" "Rooms, cities, trees I've never touched, a coastline I've never stood on. But they feel mine, like I'm plugged into something." Erin's voice was quiet, like a hive. Claire's breath caught. "I thought I was going crazy," she said. "But now it feels like it's not in my head, it's beyond me, like we're all vessels." Erin leaned forward. "Claire, do you feel it now? Still?" Claire looked away. "Yes. Does it move?" "No. But it listens." The room felt colder suddenly. The quiet between them tightened like a wire. Then Claire added, "And it's not alone anymore." Erin whispered, "What do you mean?" Claire turned back to her. "I don't think I'm the only one in this building." Claire's words echoed in Erin's mind like a dropped stone rippling through water. "I don't think I'm the only one in this building." The idea burrowed deep, unwelcome but impossible to ignore. That night, Erin didn't sleep. She pretended to doze in the chair by Claire's bedside, eyes half-lidded, body still. But her mind stayed sharp, ears tuned to every creak and footstep beyond the door. At 1:50 a.m. she slipped out. Claire was still awake but didn't stop her. She just said quietly, "Be careful." The hallway was dim and quiet, just a few nurses moving between late rounds. Erin walked slowly, clipboard in hand like she belonged there, heart pounding so hard she thought it might give her away. She started on the 3rd floor. Long-term patients. Pulmonary, neuro, the kind who didn't move much anymore. The rooms were mostly dark, blinds drawn, monitors beeping rhythmically behind closed doors. She turned a corner and nearly froze. Down the hall, a woman stood in the middle of the corridor, barefoot, hospital gown fluttering slightly as if from a breeze that didn't exist. Her head tilted gently to the left. Her eyes were open, but not seeing. Erin ducked behind the corner. She peeked again. The woman hadn't moved. The corridor clock on the wall read 2:01 a.m. Erin pulled out her phone and started recording. The woman began walking, slow, measured steps, toward the other end of the hallway. Her hands hung limp by her sides. She moved like someone being led by invisible threads. Then, from another wing, another patient appeared. A man, mid-50s, hospital gown, same bare feet, same posture. They walked until they stood directly across from each other, just outside room 318. Neither of them spoke. They didn't touch. They just stood there. Erin's breath caught in her throat. Then, at 2:03 exactly, they moved in unison. Each lifted their right hand, palm out, as if to touch the other. No words, no expressions, just two patients mirroring each other with terrifying precision. Erin stepped backward, phone still filming, heart racing. A nurse emerged behind her, and she almost jumped. "Are you okay?" the nurse whispered. Erin pointed down the hall, but when they looked, the hallway was empty. Both patients had returned to their rooms, doors closed, lights off, as if nothing had happened. The nurse looked at her, half concerned, half annoyed. "Ma'am, you really shouldn't be wandering around after visiting hours. I saw—" "Come on," the nurse said gently. "Let's get you back." Back in Claire's room, Erin played the footage. The video was grainy, but the two figures were unmistakable. Their synchronized movements, the mirrored palms, the timestamp, 2:03 a.m. Claire watched in silence. When it ended, she whispered, "It's spreading." Erin's voice was tight. "You think it's contagious?" Claire didn't answer at first. Then, not like a virus, not like the flu, it's not passed by air or touch, it's behavioral, symbiotic. Like a pattern, like an idea, an invitation. Erin stared at her. "You're telling me people are being recruited?" Claire looked back, her eyes dark. Not recruited, rewritten. The next morning, Erin tried to report what she saw. She went to Dr. Brooks directly, showed him the footage. He watched the video without expression. When it ended, he rubbed his eyes. "Do you know how many patients get disoriented in the middle of the night?" he said. "Especially those on sedatives? This isn't sleepwalking. It's not evidence of anything abnormal." They moved in unison, Dr. Brooks sighed. "You're exhausted. You're scared. I understand. But this hospital has protocols. If something's medically wrong, we'll find it." Erin leaned forward, voice low. "What if it's not just medical?" He didn't reply. Just closed the laptop gently and said, "Claire is stable. Let's focus on keeping her that way." Later that day, a security memo went out hospital-wide. No visitors permitted on non-designated floors after 10 p.m. Erin got the message. They were watching her now. That night, she stayed in Claire's room. She didn't try to sneak out again. But at exactly 2:03 a.m., Claire sat up in bed without warning. Erin startled awake. Claire's eyes were wide open but unfocused. She turned her head toward the window, toward the reflection in the glass, and smiled. Erin sat up slowly. "Claire?" Claire didn't answer. She raised her left hand slowly, palm toward the window. Her reflection did the same, of course, but the timing was wrong, just off by a breath, as if it wasn't a reflection at all. Erin reached out, grabbed Claire's wrist. It was cold. "Claire, look at me." Claire blinked, and the spell broke. She shuddered and looked down, suddenly present. "I'm sorry," she whispered. It was calling again. "What's calling you?" Erin demanded. Claire met her eyes. "I don't know," she said, "but it's getting louder." Erin found Dr. Harrow's name in a buried forum thread on a site for whistleblowers. The post was nearly a year old, titled "Only What I Saw Inside Her Head." The body of the post was clinical, measured, but it carried the unmistakable tremor of someone whose life had unraveled. It described a patient from Arizona with a mass behind her ear, misdiagnosed as an abscess. Harrow had drained it, expecting pus. Instead, he pulled out what he called a segmented neural structure, alive, responsive, intentional. He wrote that he'd tried to alert the CDC. They shut him down within 48 hours. His license was suspended, 2 weeks later, due to mental instability. There was no name on the post, but Erin tracked it to a Proton mail address, and from there, one more leap, to a P.O. box in Flagstaff. It was a long shot, but she was out of options. She emailed him. Subject line, "I believe you." The reply came the same night, "You're in danger. If she's still early, there might be time. Call me." He left a number, no signature. Erin stepped into the hospital stairwell and dialed. The voice on the other end was hoarse, tired, like it hadn't been used for real conversation in months. "Who are you?" he asked. "My name's Erin. My sister, Claire, she had something behind her ear. They thought it was a cyst. They removed it. But," she exhaled, "it wasn't alone." Silence. Then Harrow said, "How many?" "7 removed," she said. "Maybe 8, we're not sure." He cursed softly. "That's too many." "What are they?" Erin asked. Harrow didn't answer right away. "Then, have you heard of cordyceps? The fungus, the one that hijacks ants?" "It's a model, a metaphor. But these aren't fungal. They're more ancient, older than any taxonomy we know. They don't rot. They don't breed in the way we understand. They embed themselves in neural pathways, grow slowly, mimic electrical patterns, like learning our brains, like becoming them." Erin gripped the phone tighter. "Why the ear? Access point. Close to the skull base, near the mastoid and auditory cortex. They settle in, then expand into the brainstem, carefully, patiently. They don't kill. They colonize." Erin whispered, "She's hearing things, dreaming things. Knew something I hadn't told anyone. Another pause. They're networked, Harrow said. Each host becomes a node. They share data, memory, emotion. One dreams, the other sees it. One learns, the others adapt. Erin felt cold sweat crawl down her spine. She said it was getting louder. It will, Harrow said. There's a stage, stage 3, when the host begins to lose differentiation between self and network. Thought becomes shared, identity fragments. What's hers becomes theirs. How do we stop it? I don't know. You've seen this before. You must have tried. I tried excision, drainage, high-dose antivirals. Nothing slows it. It's not about biology. It's about pattern recognition. Once they've mapped your brain, his voice broke, you're not you anymore. Erin went quiet. Then she said, what happens after stage 3? Harrow exhaled. They leave, they move on, to a new host, but they don't leave you behind. You're still part of it. A shadow echo, a voice in someone else's head. Erin leaned against the wall. Is there any way to disconnect her from the others? There might be one. What is it? Isolation. No external stimuli, no electronics, no reflection, no sleep cycles, a complete sensory void. You mean, put her in a box? I mean seal her mind off from their grid, temporarily, long enough to reassert identity. But it's risky. Some people, they never come back. Erin closed her eyes. She's slipping, she said. I can feel it. She says things, exactly like others, word for word. Even the time is the same. Harrow's voice was bleak. Then you don't have long. That evening, Claire was sitting up in bed again. Her face was pale, but her eyes were clear. Too clear. She turned as Erin entered. You went looking, she said softly. Erin stopped cold. Claire smiled faintly. It's okay. I would have done the same. I talked to someone. A doctor. Claire tilted her head. Harrow? Erin stared. How did you? Claire touched her temple. He's afraid. It echoes. Erin's voice shook. You're not supposed to know that. Claire blinked slowly. I know a lot of things now. Then she said something that turned Erin's blood to ice. You never told me you wanted to move to Oregon. Erin froze. What? When you were 12, Claire said. You wrote it in a notebook, a journal. You said the trees looked like fingers, and the fog made you feel safe. Erin hadn't told anyone that. Ever. Not even Claire. Claire, she whispered. That wasn't your memory. Claire's eyes filled with tears. She nodded. I know. That night, Erin unplugged everything in the room. She covered the windows in blankets, taped the light cracks with surgical tape, turned off the monitors. She left only a small red night lamp in the corner. Claire watched her. What are you doing? She asked. Buying time. Erin set up a chair in the doorway and didn't sleep, not even when Claire's whispering began again, low and rhythmic, words she didn't recognize, until she realized they weren't English. Not any human language at all, just sound, shared, broadcasted, through her. Claire didn't sleep that night, neither did Erin. The room had become a tomb, quiet, sealed, blanketed in shadows. The only sound was Claire's shallow breathing and the distant hum of the hospital through layers of muted walls. By 4 a.m., Claire was pacing, not wildly, not frantically, just pacing, back and forth, 5 steps each way. Like a metronome, like something counting. Erin watched from the chair, the dim red glow of the night lamp painting the corner of her face. You need to lie down, she said gently. Claire stopped. She turned toward Erin with eyes too calm. I can't, she whispered. If I do, I'll hear them again. You've been hearing them anyway. Not like this. They're angry. Erin stood slowly, approached her sister. We have to break the link. You said so yourself. You said you still felt you. We can still. Claire stepped back, voice trembling now. It doesn't want to let go. What doesn't? Claire opened her mouth and froze. Then, slowly, she turned toward the wall. Her head tilted, her eyes unfocused. Her body went still. Claire? Erin whispered. Nothing. She reached forward, touched her sister's shoulder, and Claire collapsed, her knees buckled. She crumpled to the floor like a puppet with its strings cut. Erin caught her before her head hit the tile, heart racing. Claire, Claire! Her sister's eyes fluttered, but they didn't close. They stared, wide and glazed, at the ceiling. Then her lips moved, but it wasn't Claire's voice. It was deeper, slower, wrong. You were warned. Erin's blood ran cold. Who are you? She whispered. Claire's lips moved again. You think you're separate. You think you're safe. Erin's hands trembled. What do you want? We want nothing. A pause. We simply are. Claire's body seized once, then stilled. For several seconds there was nothing. Then her chest rose sharply. She gasped, like someone drowning breaking surface. Her eyes focused. Erin, she choked. Did something? You passed out, Erin said. But you're okay, I've got you. Claire shook her head slowly. No, she whispered, you don't. At 7 a.m. Erin wheeled a supply cart into the room, moving with surgical precision. She'd stolen sheets of blackout plastic, sound-dampening foam, even a used pair of patient noise-canceling earphones. The door had already been jammed with a rubber wedge. The window blinds were reinforced with duct tape. Claire sat in the bed, silent, watching. You said Harrow mentioned isolation, Erin said. Full sensory deprivation. Cut the link. Claire's voice was quiet. And if I lose me in the dark, you won't. You don't know that. Erin knelt in front of her, touched her hand. I'm right here. I'll be here the whole time. Claire didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, I don't want to die with it still inside me. You won't. Erin wrapped the foam around her sister's ears, fitted the headband in place. She checked the seal on the plastic face shield. Enough light for air, not enough to reflect. Then she dimmed the lamp. Claire was alone inside her head, and Erin sat down to wait. The first hour passed in silence. Then Claire began to tremble. At first it was her hands, twitching beneath the sheet. Then her breathing shortened. Quick, shallow inhales. Her lips moved, but Erin couldn't hear through the shield. She leaned close, just in time to see Claire mouthing something again and again, 2 words, let me, over and over. Erin hesitated, then pulled the foam earpads free. Claire's voice surged out in a gasp. Let me back in. Erin stepped back, heart racing. Claire thrashed in the bed, eyes wild, face pale with sweat. I'm not there anymore, she cried. I can't find me. I can't find my name. Claire, I don't know what I am. Claire, listen to me. It's all voices. Layers. People I've never met. Places I've never been. She seized Erin's hand with frightening strength. You have to remind me. Please. Erin leaned close, tears burning her eyes. You're Claire Mitchell. You were born on April 19th. You broke your wrist falling off the tree in Grandma's backyard. You used to eat peanut butter with a spoon and hated the smell of oranges. You sang off-key in the shower every Sunday. Claire sobbed. Erin kept going. You love thunderstorms. You bite your lip when you're nervous. You always wanted to paint, but never showed anyone your work. Claire clung tighter. Say it again, she whispered. Your name is Claire, Erin said. You are not them. You are you. The trembling slowed. Breath by breath, Claire's grip loosened, and for a moment Erin saw her sister come back. But just as quickly, Claire winced, shuddered, and whispered, It's still here. By nightfall, Claire was catatonic. Not unconscious, not asleep, just distant. Erin sat beside her, eyes red, jaw clenched. No one else knew what they were doing. No doctors, no cameras. It was just them now. And the thing inside Claire refused to let go. At 2:03 a.m., Claire turned her head. So slowly it was almost imperceptible. She faced the darkened window, though nothing could be seen through the black tape. She smiled and whispered, They're listening. Claire woke up just before dawn. Erin had been dozing in the chair, neck bent at an impossible angle, when she heard the whisper, Hey, soft, human, hers. Erin bolted upright. Claire was sitting up, legs folded under her, hair tousled but eyes clear, really clear, for the first time in weeks. You're here, Erin breathed. Claire nodded slowly. Yeah, I think so. You remember everything? Most of it. She touched her temple. Some parts are dim, like echoes of other people's dreams. Not mine. You were gone, Claire, completely. Claire's jaw clenched. I know, I felt it. Like falling into a lake and hearing voices underwater. Some were beautiful, some were... She didn't finish. Instead, she looked at her hands. But I'm dry now. I'm back. Erin crossed the room, knelt beside her, searched her face. Do you feel it? Still in there? Claire hesitated. I don't think so. But you're not sure. I don't know if I'll ever be sure. Erin exhaled, long and shaky, then leaned her forehead against Claire's. I missed you. I missed me too. Later that morning, Dr. Brooks came in. He glanced at Claire's chart, then at her. You're stable. No signs of relapse. Blood pressure, heart rate, everything's clean. Claire offered a small smile. What about psyche, Val? He looked at her over the clipboard. You passed it yesterday. You just weren't conscious for it. Erin stood at the window, arms crossed. And the scan? She asked. Brooks blinked. What scan? The follow-up CT. The one to confirm if there's anything left. Brooks frowned, flipped through the file. There's no order for that. You promised imaging, Erin said, sharper now. He looked uncomfortable. There was a change in directive. Dr. Singh was reassigned. Some departments have been instructed to stand down on certain cases. Higher-level decision. Claire and Erin exchanged a look. Brooks cleared his throat. But as far as I'm concerned, you're clear to discharge. You've made remarkable progress. Erin didn't move. Claire stood slowly. Thank you, doctor. But her voice had cooled. A warning under the calm. As Brooks left, Erin turned to her. They're shutting this down. Claire nodded. Because it's not just me anymore, and they left the hospital just after noon. The world felt too bright. Claire walked slowly like someone seeing color again after weeks underground. She winced at sounds, shielded her eyes from reflections in car windows. But she didn't collapse. She didn't shiver. She was back. Or so Erin told herself. They went home to Claire's apartment, now sterile, scrubbed, as if the thing that had lived there could still breathe through the walls. Erin made tea. Claire stared at the floor for a long time. Do you ever wonder, she said, what it wanted? Erin didn't answer. Not just to survive, Claire went on, not just to grow. It wanted understanding, synchronicity. You think it was intelligent? Claire looked up. I think it was curious. Erin sat across from her. I think it was colonizing. Claire shrugged. Maybe both. Maybe curiosity is the first step of control. And that night, Erin stayed over. They played old music, talked like they used to, laughed even. But around 2 a.m. as Claire slept on the couch, Erin stood in the bathroom brushing her teeth and froze. There it was, a whisper, not out loud, inside, a pressure, a rhythm, not a sound, but a knowing, like a thought she didn't have. Erin stared into the mirror. Her reflection looked back, nothing strange, except she blinked, and the reflection didn't, only for a heartbeat. But she saw it. She backed away, hand trembling, turned off the light. The next morning, Erin didn't say anything. She packed her bag, hugged Claire tight, and told her she needed to return to work. Claire smiled, nodded, understanding. Call me if you need anything, Erin said. Claire tilted her head, eyes narrowing ever so slightly. Will I? Erin paused. Claire grinned. Joking. Kind of. Erin smiled thinly, then left. 3 days later, a news story broke. Small town in Oregon. A school nurse found larvae behind a student's ear. Then 2 more cases. Adults, unrelated. The CDC issued a statement. Isolated parasitic infection, under investigation. No mention of Claire. No mention of Erin. No mention of connection. But Erin read between the lines. It had moved. And that night, Erin sat on her bed, alone, lights off. She pulled her hair aside and stared into her phone's front-facing camera. Nothing. No swelling. No redness. But she still felt it, like a word caught behind her ear, like a whisper she couldn't quite hear. She typed a message to Claire. Do you ever feel like it's still out there? The reply came instantly. I don't think it ever left. Erin stared at the screen. Then another message appeared, unprompted. But it didn't come from Claire. No name. Just text. Thank you for listening. Erin dropped the phone. Her ears were ringing, but not with sound. With thought, layered, familiar, not hers. Somewhere in another city, a child awoke crying, clutching the side of his head. In a senior home in Illinois, 2 patients stood in perfect stillness in the hallway at 2:03 a.m., hands raised to one another without speaking. In a university dorm, a biology student scribbled symbols into her notebook she didn't recognize, until she dreamt of someone else drawing the same shapes halfway across the country. And on a bus, a woman whispered something under her breath. The man beside her flinched, looked at her. You say something? She smiled softly. No, just thinking. Back in her apartment, Claire stood at the window. She held her mug of tea, watched the city breathe beneath her. A breeze moved through the cracked window. A pressure formed behind her eyes, like remembering something she hadn't lived. She closed her eyes and smiled. Just a little. Just enough. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what lives inside us. It's what lives between us. Memory, thought, emotion. What if every whisper in your mind wasn't yours? What if you were never truly alone, and never truly yourself again? In the end, Claire survived. But survival isn't the same as freedom. The scars on her skin may heal, but what about the ones we can't see, the echoes we carry, the ones we pass on? So tonight, before you sleep, pause. Listen. That flicker of thought, that whisper behind your ear. Is it yours or someone else's? Have you ever had a dream that felt like it didn't belong to you? Leave your story in the comments. We're listening. And if you found this story haunting, thoughtful, or unforgettable, like, subscribe, and follow for more tales that stay with you long after the lights go out.